People and settlement. What is a settlement? The way we organize ourselves and our living spaces in a place is called a settlement. That is the geographic space where we live and work. In a settlement, we have different kinds of activities: educational, religious, commercial, etc. How did settlements begin? Early humans hunted and gathered their food. That is why they were called hunter-gatherers. They were nomadic, that is, they kept moving from place to place. This was the in search of food, gathering food from plants and trees and hunting animals for meat, hide, and other uses. However, owing to changes in the obtaining of food, some bands took to the deliberate production of food in the way called agriculture. This was only 10,000 years ago. It brought about many changes in human lifestyle. People did not have to travel over large areas to obtain food. They could now increasingly stay in one place. Expansion of agriculture and emergency of towns. As agriculture progressed, people organized their life around patterns observed in nature. For example, the seasonal cycles, how to predict climatic conditions, how to plan the timings of cropping practices, and so on. As population increased, there was more specialization. Weavers, potters, metal workers, and other professions emerged. Rulers began to encourage craft persons to settle in urban areas. Urban settlements, that is, towns where people did not work in agricultural, expanded. Why do settlements changes? Settlements change for many reasons. Now look at the story about the Delhi when India gained independence. Delhi city remained its capital. Partition at the time of independence resulted in mass migration in and out of India. Over the decades, the city has attracted people from all parts of India as they migrated in search of livelihood, jobs, etc. As the capital of the country with the parliament and the central government offices, there are people from all parts of living in the city. Today Delhi is the second largest city with more than 16 billion people. This rise in the population was mostly due to in-migration. This has changed the composition and settlement patterns of the city. Let us begin by looking at the type of areas where people live in Delhi. We find that there were different types of slum areas or areas of poor in the city. All of them started as unauthorized colonies. Later on, some of these areas were regularized and accepted by the local authorities as valid settlements. These became the designated slum areas or resettlement colonies or regularized unauthorized colonies. However, other areas continue without being accepted as legal settlements, such as Juggi Jhopdi clusters and unauthorized colonies. These areas are overcrowded. On many occasions, there were conflicts on land rights. Often big builders or DDA itself would evict people from land that they have been living on for a long time. The compensation given under such circumstances may not be sufficient for them either to relocate back to their native places or afford a residence in planned areas of the city. Thus, it often ends up that people move from one area to another and they occupy a new location that is not notified. Over time, the process repeats itself, thus settlement have been growing in an unplanned manner. What kinds of places attracted settlements? To understand this, we need to look at the basic concepts, site and situation, the history of the place. Site refers to the characteristics of the place. In early settlement periods, places which had favorable water supply and goods protection from invasions were preferred. Places do not exist in isolation. They are in some way connected to other places. Situation describes the connections with other places. For example, Visakhapatnam is located on the coast and connects Andhra Pradesh to many places in and outside of India. Visakhapatnam has a long history. During the 19th century, the British and the French fought a naval battle over this city. Coastal places were of immense significance for colonial powers because they could build ports there. These ports could enable export of raw materials to the colonizing country. Over the decades, Visakhapatnam population has grown significantly. This growth is a result of the importance of Visakhapatnam as a port city. This population increase also indicates growth in economic and social opportunities. How are settlements organized? As settlements become more and more diversified in their characteristics, they also became more and more complex. Gradually, a network of places in an hierarchy has been formed. Thus, for more complex needs, you have to a bigger place. For example, a big village or small town may have a primary health center (PHC). A high technology hospital is usually not located in an isolated village. Urbanization in India. In India, nearly 350 million, that is, one-third of the population lives in cities and towns. People have been taking up non-agricultural work and living in cities and towns. This is called urbanization. Most of the population increase in cities and towns took place as a consequence of natural growth within the urban areas. The population of these urban areas increased over time. Some of the growth in urban settlements took place by expansion with the inclusion of rural areas surrounding older cities and towns. Only one-fifth of the growth is due to rural to urban migration. Though there has been an increase in urbanization, the necessity of providing basic infrastructure that can support this growth is missing. You require roads, drainage, electricity, water, and other public facilities. Living in or moving into cities and towns is a boon only for a few. Although the level of poverty in urban areas is relatively lower than what is noticed in rural areas, there is a huge gap between the average income of a low-income family and a high-income family. This gap also has been increasing in cities and towns. Indian settlements in hierarchy. The Census of India organizes settlements in India using certain criteria. This census department's definitions of various settlement types are given below. Mega cities, cities having more than 10 million persons. Metropolitan cities, millions plus cities, cities having population between 1 million to 10 millions. Cities, class 1 cities, urban areas having population between 1 lakh to 1 million. Towns, all the urban areas having population between 5,000 to 1 lakh. Revenue census village, a village with defined borders. Hamlets, a group of houses within the revenue village. Aerotropolis, jet age city. A new kind of settlement is occurring in many countries including India. These settlements are centered around large airports. Hence, the name Aerotropolis is an aerotropolis. The airport function as city in its own right. People can fly in, conduct their business with their counterparts right there, and fly out with all the comfort of the city without the traffic and other problems. Some form of the aeropolises are merging in these places in India. Bengaluru International Airport, Indira Gandhi International Airport, Delhi, and Rajiv Gandhi International Airport, Hyderabad. Urbanization problems. Increasing urbanization is not just about greater opportunities for people, more economic productivity, etc. It also results in many problems. The growing urban population has to be housed. It needs water supply, sewage and other waste disposal, transportation and many other things. All this result in environmental stress. As vehicle use increase urban air pollution, improper sewage disposal can also lead to greater threat of infectious diseases. One of the impacts of increased urbanization is the use of materials that either do not degrade or take a long time to do so. This produces waste that has to be disposed of.
మా వీడియో గనుక మీకు నచ్చినట్లయితే లైక్ చేయండి, షేర్ చేయండి. ఇలాంటి మరిన్ని వీడియోస్ కోసం మా ఛానల్ని సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకోవడం మాత్రం మర్చిపోకండి. థ్యాంక్ యూ ఫర్ వాచింగ్.